Today, we'll read a news article together, and this is an advanced C1 article. But don't worry, because this lesson is perfect for you if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced student, because I'll explain everything in detail. You'll improve all areas of your English, your vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, reading, writing, and more. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline: scientists may have finally cracked the mystery of why T-Rex had such tiny arms. And of course, this is our T-Rex with his tiny arms. Now let's look at this use here, because we see the verb crack, which can be you crack an egg, for example. But the expression is crack the mystery. So in this use, the word crack means solve, have finally solved the mystery, or scientists now understand. They have discovered why T-Rex had such tiny arms. So crack the mystery is a common expression. It means solve the mystery, so you now understand. And the mystery is of why T-Rex had, because of course, past simple, such tiny arms. Let's look at the use here, because this is a great grammatical structure. We have the word such, we have an adjective, and then we have a noun. And we use this to emphasize the noun and adjective combination. So T-Rex had tiny arms, and then you want to emphasize the degree of those tiny arms. You want to make it sound more significant. T-Rex had such tiny arms. You can use this structure when offering a compliment. You have nice eyes. But then just add the word such to emphasize it. Wow, Jennifer, you have such nice eyes. Oh, thank you so much. Or, of course, you can make a general statement. It can be a positive statement. It could even be a negative statement, and you want to emphasize the degree of that negative statement. But in my example, I have a positive statement. This is a great lesson. So your article, because your noun is singular. There was no article here because the noun is plural, and same in our original example. This is a great lesson. Emphasize it. This is such a great lesson, Jennifer. If you agree with that, this is such a great lesson. Put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now, one more thing I wanted to point out. Scientists may have solved the mystery of. So scientists may have. This means there's a possibility. But there's also a possibility that they have not. So it is not a statement. If you want to state it as fact, you could say scientists have cracked the mystery. And notice the use of the present perfect. In this case, the present perfect is for a completed past action. They did this last week with their study, but there's a result in the present. So now scientists understand other behaviors of T-Rex related to this mystery, cracking the mystery. So this is not definitive. It's just a possibility. Without it, all you have to do is remove that one word, because have would be conjugated with our plural subject scientists, and then it's stated as fact with the result in the present, and that's the present perfect. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's continue on and learn about this mystery of these tiny arms. A new study claims to have solved. Okay, so here they're using solved instead of cracked the mystery. And notice they're using claims to have done something. Now, claims is conjugated with the subject, which is a new study. It claims. If something claims to do something or to have done something, it means that it isn't verified, it isn't confirmed as fact. So it's different language, but it expresses the same idea of using the modal. Scientists may have finally cracked. A new study claims to have solved. Again, if you remove this part, a new study, now we have to change the grammar. A new study has solved. This would be your present perfect, and it would be fact with a result in the present. A new study claims to have solved the long-standing mystery. Long-standing means, of course, we have had this mystery for a very long time. Now, you can use this in different contexts. You could say there is a long-standing debate at our office over the dress code. So you've been talking about the dress code, what you should wear to work, and this has been happening for a long time. So long-standing, it functions as an adjective, and it means for a long time. A new study claims to have solved the long-standing mystery of why Tyrannosaurus rex, of course you can just say T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus rex had such disproportionately small arms. Disproportionately is an important word because let's take a mouse. A mouse is tiny. So of course a mouse has tiny arms. Tiny, small, I'm using them interchangeably. A mouse has tiny arms, but those tiny arms are proportional to the mouse's tiny body. Okay? So disproportionately, it means that the rest of the T-Rex was not small. Disproportionately small arms. You might say, I did a disproportionate amount of work on the team project. So you worked on the team project, but if you say I did a disproportionate amount of work, it means you did more than the others. And notice we also have our sentence structure, such small arms. Such, adjective, noun. What is this in terms of parts of speech? Well, I already wrote it for you. It's an adverb. And in this case, the adverb modifies the adjective. It describes small. In my example I gave you, disproportionate, that's an adjective. It describes the amount of work.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
A Royal Society research paper. Royal Society, this is the name of the research paper organization where the research paper was published. It was published in the journal Royal Society. A Royal Society research paper published May 20th suggests that T-Rex, which average more than 40 feet long, with arms stretching just 3 feet. So this right here gives you an example of the disproportionately small arms, because maybe if you don't have this image, here you can visually see that they're disproportionately small. But if you didn't have this image and you had never seen a Tyrannosaurus rex, so you don't have an image in your mind, then this description can give you information about proportions. So disproportionate comes from the word proportions. So this tells you about the proportions. Suggests that T-Rex, now here, suggests also means that they say it is true, but it has not been confirmed as fact. So the article suggests. Otherwise, you could say the article proves. If they use the word prove, then the word prove sounds like, oh, okay, there's evidence that this is fact. But by just saying suggests, it means that it may not be a fact. Suggests that T-Rex, which average more than 40 feet long with arms stretching just 3 meters. So stretching represents if my arm is like this and you took a measurement, obviously it would be a lot long or a lot shorter than if I did this and I stretched my arm. So stretching represents just putting your arm in the position where you can take a proper measurement of the full arm. Stretching just 3 feet naturally evolved smaller arms as its skull grew larger. So skull, of course, represents all of this, the bones on the inside, skull, ol. So you have that dark L, ol, skull, skull, skull. As its skull grew larger. Let's keep reading. Researchers analyzed 85 dinosaur species. Notice the pronunciation, dinosaur, dinosaur. So here, this is one sound, sore, sore. Like I have a sore arm, dinosaur. Researchers analyzed 85 dinosaur species, different types of dinosaurs, and found a consistent correlation among 5 groups. So correlation would be a repeating pattern among 5 groups, each showing a pattern of larger skulls, so remember skull, and shorter forelimbs. This is not a word you will use in your daily speech unless you are maybe a researcher, a doctor, a paleontologist, which is someone who specifically studies dinosaurs. That's the job title, paleontologist. If you are familiar with the TV show Friends, you may know that job title because one of the characters, Ross, was a paleontologist. Limbs represent your arms and legs. For humans, but so 4 is front. So for humans, our forelimbs are our arms. But for birds, for example, because many dinosaur species flew, their forelimbs could be their wings. So that's why they're using the term forelimbs instead of arms, or because it's not only arms, that's for humans. So forelimbs, just think of an animal's front, arms, wings, or even legs. Let's keep reading. The study suggests, again, using the word suggest because they're presenting this as what they've seen in the research, in the data, but they're not confirming it as universal fact at this time. The study suggests that as prey grew bigger, Tyrannosaurus and other large predatory dinosaurs evolved to use their powerful jaws, so this part of your face is your jaw, as their primary weapon, leaving their arms with little evolutionary purpose. Okay, so first, let's review prey. So Tyrannosaurus are predators. Predator, which means they eat other animals. The animals that they eat are called prey. So predatory dinosaurs, in that case, predatory describes a dinosaur, so it's an adjective. When I said they are predators, that's also the adjective as well. To be, and then predators. They are predators. So predatory dinosaurs evolved. So it means they changed over time. It suggests that perhaps there was a time when T-Rex were alive and they had longer arms, but they evolved to use their powerful jaws as their primary weapon, leaving their arms with little evolutionary purpose. Let's keep reading. Everything was approached head first. So notice here we have quotation marks. So these are the words of someone. Everything was approached head first. So leading with your head first. So the head was what first came into contact with the prey. Remember, the prey, this is an animal that is being hunted. So think of the cat would be the predator and the prey would be the mouse. Okay? So the head, what first came into contact with the prey. In my example, it would be the cat's head first came into contact with the mouse. But of course, they're talking about Tyrannosaurus Rex and their prey, which would be other dinosaurs, other smaller dinosaurs. The lead author in the study told CNN. So this is who is saying this, the lead author in the study. That was the easiest way to bring them down. Okay, what does this mean? That was the easiest way. That represents what was just said. Coming into contact with the prey head first. All of that information is summarized with the word that. That was the easiest way to bring them down. Who's them? When you're figuring out pronouns, always look to the last noun referenced. Now, this isn't part of it because this is information coming from CNN, coming from the journalist. The last part of the quotation is here. So the prey is the last mentioned noun. So to bring the prey down. So to bring the prey down is the little mouse is running and then the cat jumps on the mouse. The mouse is no longer running. The cat brought the mouse down. So into a lying, helpless position as prey. Let's keep reading. The quote continues, as opposed to. So as opposed to, they're saying, well, there's another way to bring prey down, but they're not doing that because as opposed to. So what's the other way? Jumping around or fighting with claws. So fighting with claws, perhaps this is actually what the cat would do with the mouse. In my example, the cat would probably lead with the claws to grab the mouse. I have a cat, so based on my observation, I think that's what a cat would do, fighting with claws, in my experience of cats, not talking about jungle cats. Now, jumping around, perhaps this could be, for example, a kangaroo. That's the first animal I thought that I've seen videos of kangaroos jumping and fighting other kangaroos as well as other animals. So Tyrannosaurus Rex, that's not what they did. They weren't jumping around. They weren't swiping with their claws because they had tiny little arms. They couldn't. They went head first. So as opposed to, remember, they're saying this is not what happened. You can think of as opposed to similar to instead of. Instead of is used in a more everyday context, as opposed to is used in a more formal context though. You could say the company focuses on quality as opposed to quantity. Remember, we're not doing this, we are doing this. So we're saying no to quantity, amount, and we're saying yes to quality, how good the product is. Now, you could say as opposed to lowering our prices, we could reduce supply. So you're suggesting an alternative. Everyone's in the meeting saying, let's lower our prices. Let's lower our prices. And then you say, as opposed to lowering our prices. So remember, you're saying not this, yes to something else. Yes to reduce supply. But you're not saying, I'm opposed to lowering our prices. This uses opposed to. It does not use as. So the sentence structure is slightly different, but of course it looks similar. So to be opposed to something means you disagree with. I do not think lowering our prices is a good idea. Now, of course, if you suggest an alternative, likely you want to consider something else because you're not convinced it's a good idea, but I'm opposed to is a very strong I disagree. You could just be suggesting an alternative for the purpose of brainstorming, so it's not the same meaning and it's not the same sentence structure. So don't confuse those. Let's keep reading. Schrerer, this would be the lead author that we were introduced to, the lead author in the study. So his last name, because if they only list one name in journalism style, it's the last name. And it's not common to use Mr. or Mr. They'll just use the last name. So in this case, Scherer, if I'm saying it correctly. Scherer added that. So added, he gave additional information. And this is the additional information because it starts with a quotation. Scherer added that evolution doesn't like to have everything all at once. And since T-Rex and other apex prehistoric predators. Okay, apex is at the highest level or the highest order. So we have predators. Let's just take my example of cats. Well, a house cat, my adorable cat, would be at the lowest level of feline predators. A lion would be an apex feline predator. Okay, so house cat at the lowest point of the scale of feline predator, and then lion at the highest point. So a lion would be an apex predator. Apex. Other apex prehistoric predators focused on using their heads to bring down large prey. So again, the same thing, to bring down, to defeat large prey, the animals being hunted. Nature simply stopped investing in keeping their arms long and clawed. So humans, we have fingernails. My cat has claws. So it's the name of the nail, and they're very strong and they're very sharp. I know because sometimes my cats accidentally scratch me. And because their claws are strong and sharp. Okay, so that is clawed. So their arms long and clawed, of course, would be to have claws at the end of their arms, which would be on their fingers as well. If they had fingers, they could just be called claws because some animals just have claws, for example, where it might look something like this and then have sharp nails. So if nature simply stopped investing in keeping their arms long and clawed, it means nature did not give the arms the nutrients it needed to grow longer arms. That would be my understanding of it. Nature just did not give that part of the body what it needed. So that's what they mean by stop investing in. Herbivores. What's a herbivore? A herbivore is an animal that eats plants, like a rabbit. So a rabbit, to my understanding, does not eat other animals. It eats grass and leaves, maybe some berries. So that would be a herbivore. Herbivores did not follow the same trend. So the trend would be, because remember, a trend is something that happens over time. So the article suggests that over time, the T-Rex arms got smaller. So that the trend is the arms becoming smaller. But herbivores, dinosaurs that ate plants, not other animals, herbivores did not follow the same trend. So their arms did not become smaller. And retain means keep, and retain their long arms to possibly. So possibly is, this may be the reason why, but I'm not 100% certain. Maybe it's more of it could be 50%, it could be 70%, but it's not 100%. To possibly grasp, so right now I'm grasping, so to hold something with your hand. Of course, the terminology may have been different. Maybe it was a claw for the dinosaur. So to grasp vegetation and defend against predators. So defend against animals that were trying to eat them, because remember, this was for herbivores. So they're giving reasons why herbivores kept their long arms. And by contrast, other dinosaurs, predators, did not. Let's keep reading. Scherer, remember this was the lead author, Scherer noted that while T-Rex's arms shrank over thousands of years, shrank means to become smaller. So if I put this shirt in the dryer, it could shrink. It could become smaller. So it can happen with a part of your body, or it can happen with an object like a shirt. Shrank is the past simple. T-Rex's arms shrank over thousands of years. So over means that time period. So the time period is thousands of years. And it happened gradually from the start to end of that time period. So that's what over means. It's the entire time period. Shrank over thousands of years. They weren't completely useless. So here, they weren't completely useless. They represents T-Rex's arms. Now, while is used for a contrast. So we have this one, the arms shrank. They weren't completely useless. So it seems like there's a contrasting idea. So the arms were getting smaller, which means less useful, but they weren't useless, which means zero use. If something is useless, I could say, oh, this lesson is useless. It means you're getting zero use, so zero benefit from the lesson. Hopefully, you would not say that. So they weren't making it negative, completely useless, which means they provided some benefit. And remember, they is the T-Rex's tiny arms provided some benefit. They, the tiny arms, they obviously served some kind of function. So to serve a function, to serve a purpose means to have a purpose. They exist for a reason. They obviously served some kind of function. Otherwise, they wouldn't have them. So the arms just would not exist if there were no purpose, if they were in fact useless. He said, he being Scherer, what that function is exactly. So remember, function is the purpose. So why these arms provide some sort of value or benefit, or what that benefit or value is, I don't know. So I don't know what the benefit is of the T-Rex's arms. But hopefully we can find that out. So find something out. We use find out with information. We use find with something physical. Oh, I lost my pen. Can you help me find it? Or maybe later on in the day, did you find your pen? Yes, thankfully I found my pen. I need to find out how to improve my English. So you use find out with information. But hopefully we can find that out, so understand that information, the information being the function of T-Rex's tiny arms, the purpose, with a bit more work. A bit is a small amount of. So if you could say with more work, we don't know how much work. With a bit more work, a small amount of work. So by using a bit more work, perhaps that suggests they already have some ideas. So they're 80% of the way there. They just need to do a bit more. So they just have 20% more and then they will understand. So that could be why they're saying a small amount of work. So at this point, we'll need to wait until they post another article. And that's the end of this article. So now I'll read it from start to finish and you can focus on my pronunciation. Scientists may have finally cracked the mystery of why T-Rex had such tiny arms. A new study claims to have solved the long-standing mystery of why Tyrannosaurus rex had such disproportionately small arms. A Royal Society research paper published May 20th suggests that T-Rex, which averaged more than 40 feet long, with arms stretching just 3 feet, naturally evolved smaller arms as its skull grew larger. Researchers analyzed 85 dinosaur species and found a consistent correlation among 5 groups, each showing a pattern of larger skulls and shorter forelimbs. The study suggests that as prey grew bigger, Tyrannosaurus and other large predatory dinosaurs evolved to use their powerful jaws as their primary weapon, leaving their arms with little evolutionary purpose. Everything was approached head first, so the head was what first came into contact with the prey, the lead author in the study told CNN. That was the easiest way to bring them down, as opposed to jumping around or fighting with claws. Schreier added that evolution doesn't like to have everything all at once, and since T-Rex and other apex prehistoric predators focused on using their heads to bring down large prey, nature simply stopped investing in keeping their arms long and clawed. Herbivores did not follow the same trend and retained their long arms to possibly grasp vegetation and defend against predators. Schreier noted that while T-Rex's arms shrank over thousands of years, they weren't completely useless. They obviously served some kind of function, otherwise they wouldn't have them, he said. What that function is exactly, I don't know, but hopefully we can find that out with a bit more work.
Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.